Welcome to This Explainer. Have you ever felt a sudden, massive wave of panic just at the thought of speaking up, posting something online, or, simply being noticed? It's a completely universal experience, yet we almost never take the time to talk about the actual mechanics behind it. So today, we're decoding the mystery behind the fear of being seen. We'll break down exactly why our brains react this way, and more importantly, how to move past it without having to fake absolute confidence.
It is a surprisingly common yet incredibly frustrating feeling. Why exactly does being seen feel dangerous? I mean, think about it for a second. Why does just raising your hand in a meeting or hitting publish on a creative project trigger such an intense physical reaction? Your heart starts racing, your palms might get sweaty, your stomach completely drops. It genuinely feels like there's a very real, immediate physical threat standing right in front of you.
There's this profound, kind of strange mismatch happening inside you. On one side, you've got your logical mind. It knows perfectly well that you are completely safe sitting in your living room or at your office desk, right? Nobody is going to physically attack you for speaking up. But on the other side, your physical body. It acts like exposure is going to cost you dearly. It sends adrenaline pumping through your veins, makes your breathing shallow, and triggers a literal fight-or-flight response. So it's not just shyness, and it's definitely not just overthinking. It's a deep-seated biological mismatch.
Okay, let's dive a little deeper into Section 1, the visibility mismatch. What's absolutely crucial to understand right off the bat is that visibility is never just about being noticed. Believe it or not, your nervous system actually doesn't care about attention in the abstract. It cares entirely about what that attention might eventually lead to. Think of it like a really busy market stall. A stall placed right at the front edge of the market gets a lot more customers, for sure. But it also gets more eyes, more comparison, and a whole lot more scrutiny from people just walking by. Suddenly, every single flaw, every slightly bruised apple, or every little misstep is completely visible to the entire crowd.
The underlying truth here is that the problem is not the attention itself. The problem is the meaning attached to the attention. Your brain instinctively links visibility with possible social costs. We're talking about things like judgment, rejection, being exiled from the group, or that nagging fear that your mistakes will be remembered forever. Your nervous system is reacting to those imagined downstream consequences, and it's treating them with the exact same urgency as a physical threat out in the wild.
Which brings us right to Section 2. What fear is protecting?
We so often think of fear as our ultimate enemy, or as this deep, personal flaw that we just need to forcefully conquer. But the hidden logic here reveals something totally different. Fear is a guardian, not a villain. This is a real game changer in how we look at this. Your fear is actually a highly evolved biological system that is desperately trying to keep you safe. It's popping up as a warning signal, trying to block social risks. It is actively trying to stop you from being embarrassed, criticized, or misunderstood, because, to our primitive brains, social danger is exactly the same as physical survival.
Think of this fear as a smoke alarm for belonging. Just like a house smoke alarm might loudly go off and cause a moment of pure panic when you simply burn some toast, even though there's no actual fire burning down the kitchen, your internal alarm is just doing its job to prevent a catastrophic loss. The problem isn't that the alarm exists, it's that it can't always tell the difference between real, lasting harm and just, possible temporary discomfort. It'll keep sounding its piercing warning even when the only thing at stake is a little bit of awkwardness.
So what exactly is this internal alarm trying to protect? Well, it's fiercely guarding three basic human needs. First up, belonging, our social acceptance and safety in the group, which is quite literally wired into our DNA for survival. Second, status, where we stand and how we are ranked or judged by our peers, whether that's in a modern workplace setting or your wider friend circle. And third, identity, our quiet internal sense of who we are. When we are seen and exposed, a public mistake can feel like it completely shatters our carefully crafted identity. But here's where things get incredibly tricky, navigating the subtle difference between protection and overprotection. Imagine wrapping a really fragile glass cup in bubble wrap to keep it safe during a big move. A little wrapping is definitely good, right? It's necessary. But if you wrap it so tightly and with so many layers that you literally cannot drink from the cup anymore, the protection has actually become a severe limitation. That is exactly what happens when our internal fear overprotects. It might keep you from being judged, sure, but it completely blocks your expression, stopping you from sharing a brilliant idea at work or putting your passions out into the world. It limits your entire life, all in the name of preserving safety. There's a deeper, incredibly consistent pattern behind what we feel in these moments. When you catch yourself saying, "Ugh, I hate being watched," your nervous system is actually just trying to protect your control over how you are perceived by others. When you feel that intense, overwhelming urge to just disappear into the background, that's simply your fear scanning the environment for consequences and trying to pull you back into the relief of safety. It's a misguided but totally genuine attempt to protect your dignity. So how do we get stuck? Let's move to section 3, the avoidance trap.
Once we understand that this is a protective system, we really have to look at how it accidentally becomes a vicious trap. Because a protective system actually gets stronger every single time it thinks it has successfully done its job. Here's the sequential loop of how this fear gets trained into our bodies over time. Step 1, you anticipate being seen. Step 2, your body sounds the alarm, flooding you with anxiety. Step 3, you avoid the situation entirely. You stay quiet in the meeting or you delete that draft. Step 4, the alarm lowers, bringing an immediate wave of relief. And step 5, this is the crucial one. Your brain concludes that avoidance worked. The brain doesn't pause to ask if the danger was actually real. It simply notices that the intense discomfort stopped the second you hid.
There's a massive contrast in what your brain is actually learning here. When you avoid visibility, your brain doesn't learn, hey, I was safe all along and I'm highly capable. Instead, it learns, oh my gosh, I escaped a deadly threat and survived. Avoidance becomes this secret, addictive reward. It instantly removes the immediate tension, but you tragically lose the chance to learn that visibility can actually be safely tolerated, and maybe even enjoyed.
Let's look at what the body ultimately learns from this repeated cycle of avoidance. If your repeated experiences, I stayed quiet and nothing bad happened, your body deeply internalizes the completely flawed lesson that silence equals safety. And if silence equals safety, well, therefore, exposure must be inherently dangerous. Over time, it builds this expanding mental map where almost anything public, from giving a formal presentation to just making small talk at a party, is eventually marked as a major, unmanageable threat. This leads directly to the ultimate cost of confinement. This is the hidden bargain you make with your own fear. You trade your authentic expression for temporary relief. But the long-term costs, they're devastating. It means over-editing everything you say until it loses all its original spark. It means waiting endlessly to feel completely ready before trying anything new, missing out on countless healthy opportunities. It means being physically present in the room, but remaining psychologically hidden. You end up with a life that looks perfectly functional and safe on the outside, but feels incredibly tightly managed, restricted, and profoundly exhausting on the inside.
All right, let's wrap this up in our final section, hiding versus expressing.
Here is the genuinely empowering revelation of this whole explainer. Understanding gives you distance. If this fear is a learned system, an automatic biological loop built entirely on prediction and relief, then it can absolutely be unlearned. And the absolute best part is that you do not need to force fake confidence to do it. Instead of sitting there paralyzed thinking, something is wrong with me, I'm just broken, you can step back, observe that physical feeling, and say, my system is just predicting a social cost right now. Recognizing your fear as a protective reflex transforms the overwhelming urge to hide from a strict command into nothing more than a passing signal. The absolutely crucial point to remember is this: you do not need to become fearless in order to be seen. Let that truly sink in for a moment. You don't have to eradicate fear entirely before you're allowed to share your voice. You just need enough understanding to stop mistaking your internal smoke alarm for the absolute, unquestionable truth. You can acknowledge that the alarm is ringing loudly, validate that it's trying to help, and then proceed forward without letting it dictate your actions. Which brings us to our final provocative question for you to take away from our time together today. How will you respond the next time the smoke alarm goes off? The next time you feel that sudden panic rising in your chest just before speaking up, sharing your work, or stepping into the spotlight, remember what is really happening. It's just your well-meaning internal guardian trying its best to keep you safe from a perceived social cost. You now have the knowledge, the power, and the necessary distance to choose expression over hiding. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this newfound clarity brings you a deeply rewarding kind of freedom in your life.